Off the coast of Nova Scotia, there is an island that eats men and money. For over 2 centuries, it has lured treasure hunters, engineers, and dreamers into its depths, promising untold riches and delivering tragedy. They say a pit on Oak Island is booby-trapped, that its flood tunnels were designed by geniuses, and that a curse demands 7 lives before the treasure is revealed. As of today, exactly 6 men have died trying. This is not just a story about gold. It is a story about obsession, about the most expensive and longest-running treasure hunt in human history, and about a mystery that refuses to be solved. This is the Oak Island treasure mystery. In this video, we will descend into the money pit, decode the cryptic 90-foot stone, follow the tragic footsteps of those who died searching, and reveal the stunning, scientific discoveries that have shattered the conventional story of North American history. And by the end, you will have to answer one question. Is there a treasure, or is the island itself the greatest trick ever played on human hope? Summer, 1795. Daniel McGinnis, a 16-year-old boy, is exploring Oak Island, a 140-acre chunk of land covered in oak trees. On a hill overlooking the eastern end, he finds something strange, a massive old oak tree with a sawed-off limb, showing signs of rope wear. Directly beneath it, the ground is a slight depression, as if something had been buried and the earth had settled. He returns the next day with 2 friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughn. They start digging. Just 2 feet down, they hit a layer of tightly packed flagstones, not natural to the island. Below that, at 10 feet, a solid platform of oak logs, the ends embedded in the clay walls of the shaft. At 20 feet, another platform. At 30 feet, another. Every 10 feet, a perfectly constructed platform. This was not a random hole. This was an engineered shaft, a massive feat of labor. The boys knew they were onto something legendary. The pirate captain Kidd had reportedly buried treasure on an island east of Boston, and local legends whispered of such a secret. But at 30 feet, with nothing but their own hands and limited tools, they could dig no deeper. They filled it back in, marking the spot in their minds. The story of the money pit had just been born. Nine years later, the Onslow Company arrived with money, manpower, and machinery. They re-excavated the pit and kept finding platforms. At 40 feet, a layer of charcoal. At 50 feet, a layer of putty. At 60 feet, coconut fiber, thousands of bushels of it, from trees that don't grow within 2,000 miles of Nova Scotia. This was not just a hole, it was an elaborate construction, a puzzle made of exotic materials. Every 10 feet, a new clue, a new promise. At 90 feet, they found something that should have been the final answer. A stone tablet, 2 feet long, 1 foot wide, inscribed with a series of geometric marks and characters no one had ever seen. This became the infamous 90-foot stone. According to one widely repeated translation, the code read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. The discovery sent a frenzy through the crew. They were 90 feet down. The treasure was supposedly just 40 more feet below. They dug with furious energy. But Oak Island had other plans. When the Onslow Company returned the next morning, the pit was filled with water to a depth of 33 feet. They tried to bail it out. It refilled instantly. They tried to dig a parallel shaft, but the earth collapsed and the water roared in again. They had triggered the island's legendary booby trap, an elaborate system of flood tunnels connecting the money pit to the ocean, designed to drown anyone who got too close to the prize. The 90-foot stone, the only tangible clue to what lay below, was later incorporated into a fireplace in a bookbinder's shop and eventually disappeared. No rubbing, no verified photograph remains. Some historians now argue the stone never existed, that it was a fabrication to attract more investors. But the flood trap was very, very real. In 1850, The Truro Company discovered the source of the flood. At Smith's Cove, at the low tide mark, they found 5 elaborate box drains shaped like giant fingers, constructed with flat stones and covered in tons of coconut fiber and eelgrass. This was a filter system designed to draw in seawater and channel it through a 500-foot-long tunnel directly into the money pit. The ingenuity was staggering, a 100-year-old booby trap still functioning perfectly. This is what makes Oak Island different from every other treasure legend. It's not just a story, it's a physical, functional, diabolical machine. Whoever built it had advanced engineering knowledge and a clear motive to protect whatever lies at the bottom at all costs. That same year, the Truro Company attempted to drill through the bottom of the water-filled pit with a pod auger drill. The drill passed through the expected layers, and then, at 98 feet, it punched through a wooden platform and then dropped a further 12 inches through 2 inches of oak wood. When the drill bit was pulled up, the manager, James Pitt Blado, carefully cleaned it and then, without a word, pocketed something and walked away. He refused to show anyone what he had found. Later, under oath, he said it was only a piece of metal. But the seed of doubt was planted. Had he found a coin, a gold link, a piece of treasure? The mystery deepened. The curse of Oak Island, often cited, claims that 7 men must die before the treasure is revealed. So far, 6 souls have been taken. The first death came in 1861 when a boiler on a pumping engine exploded, scalding 1 man to death. But the most devastating tragedy struck exactly a century later, in 1965, and it involved an entire family. Robert Ristall was a man possessed. He had spent years digging, certain he had solved the riddle. On a hot August day, he was working at the bottom of a 27-foot shaft, trying to stop the flooding, when fumes from a gasoline-powered pump built up in the hole. He collapsed, overcome by hydrogen sulfide gas. His son, Bobby, climbed down to save him and fell unconscious. 2 other men, Carl Gracer and Cyril Hiltz, went down to rescue them. All 4 died in that dark, silent hole. Their bodies recovered later by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It was a wound the island would not easily forget. Mildred Ristall, who lost her husband and her son in a single moment, later wrote, "There is nothing on Oak Island worth a single human life." Yet the hunt continued. "50 years later, 2 brothers would step into the spotlight and change the game forever, Rick and Marty Lagina from Michigan. When Rick was 11 years old, he read that Reader's Digest article and was never the same. He told his father he would find the treasure. In 2006, after a successful career, Marty, an engineer and energy entrepreneur, bought a controlling stake in Oak Island Tours Incorporated with his brother. The childhood dream became a full-scale, multi-million-dollar scientific operation. The Laginas didn't bring just shovels and hope. They brought ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, sonar, and a team of world-class archaeologists, geologists, and historians. Their journey, documented for over a decade, has unearthed artifacts that have shocked the academic world, even if the main treasure vault remains elusive. This is where the story transitions from folklore to forensic fact. Item 1. A Spanish 8 Maravidas coin, dated 1652, found on the shoreline. Not pirate treasure, but proof of pre-1795 activity. Item 2. A 14th century lead cross, found in the triangle-shaped swamp. Analysis confirms it's made of lead from Europe, not North America. Its shape is eerily reminiscent of a Knights Templar cross. Item 3. A stunning rhodolite garnet brooch set in gold, dating to the 16th or 17th century, found deep in the spoils. Garnets of that type come from the Indian subcontinent, and the craftsmanship is unmistakably Old World. But the most provocative discovery came from the earth of the money pit itself. and it smelled of death. Bone fragments, retrieved from depths of over 160 feet, were subjected to DNA analysis. One set of remains came from two individuals, one of European origin, the other of Middle Eastern origin. They date to the 1600s to 1700s, buried deep below the surface. This isn't speculation. This is peer-reviewed, published scientific data from the Lagina's team. And then there is the swamp. For decades, the swamp was dismissed as a natural feature. The Lagina's drained it and found a purpose-built flat stone roadway, 100 feet long, beneath layers of sediment. Core samples from the swamp show a mysterious, massive wooden structure that predates European settlement by centuries. Radiocarbon dating of timbers from various shafts pushes construction dates back to the late 1400s, before Columbus's first voyage. This is no longer just about a treasure chest. Oak Island is proving that someone, from somewhere in the old world, was here, moving mountains of earth, building complex works, and bearing something of immense importance, long before history books say they should have been. So what or who is buried in the money pit? Let's examine the most compelling and the most outrageous theories. Theory 1. Captain Kidd's pirate treasure, the classic. But Kidd was a minor player, and his actual treasure was recovered from Gardiner's Island. And why would a pirate build such an elaborate, permanent booby trap? It doesn't match the smash and grab psychology. Theory 2. The Knights Templar, the most popular and provocative. After their persecution in 1307, did the Templars flee Europe with the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, or ancient knowledge? The lead cross, the coconut fiber, which matches Templar shipping routes, the stone carvings, all point to a pre-Columbian European presence. And Oak Island is aligned with significant celestial and geographical markers, according to some researchers. But while Templar ships could theoretically have made the journey, the hard evidence is still circumstantial. Theory 3. Marie Antoinette's jewels. A lesser-known but fascinating tale. When the French Revolution exploded, a trusted lady-in-waiting fled to Nova Scotia, and the jewels of the French crown were reportedly secreted away, never to be found. Oak Island's location in a loyalist enclave gives this some historical legs. But again, the scale of the engineering seems overkill for a box of diamonds. Theory 4. Sir Francis Bacon's Shakespearean manuscripts. This theory proposes that the true author of Shakespeare's plays buried the original manuscripts here, protected by a flood tunnel, to preserve them for a future age that could appreciate the truth. There is even a cipher, but it's largely considered a fringe fantasy. Theory 5. Nothing. It's all a giant sinkhole. Skeptics argue the money pit is a natural limestone sinkhole. The platforms are just fallen trees, the coconut fiber was washed in by storms, and the whole legend is a centuries-long case of mass delusion. The problem? This does not explain the man-made finger drains, the carbon-dated timbers at depth, the non-native artifacts, or the ancient human remains. The sinkhole theory is, itself, full of holes. Why do otherwise rational people pour their life savings, their reputations, and sometimes their lives into a muddy hole on a small island? The answer is deeper than greed. It's the riddle, the 90-foot stone, the coconut fiber, the flood tunnel. Every 10 feet, Oak Island gives you a sign, a promise. It's a slot machine designed by a genius. The intermittent reinforcement is almost perfectly calibrated to trigger the most powerful dopamine loops in the human brain. Dan Blankenship, who spent 50 years on the island, once said, "The treasure is the hunt." The real riches aren't just gold. They're the camaraderie, the thrill of discovery, the belief that you are on the cusp of rewriting history. And the Laginas, to their credit, have redefined what treasure means. They have proven that the real find is the archaeological revelation, that Oak Island is a pre-Columbian time capsule, a singular site where something profoundly important happened. Every piece of wood, every bone fragment is a treasure. So, after all this, is there a vault of gold, a sacred relic, or a lost manuscript waiting at 150 feet, or 200 or deeper? The truth is, we still don't know. The Laginas have encountered tantalizing hints, high concentrations of precious metals in the water, an underground cavity that sonar suggests might be a vault, and drill cores that brought up gold-colored flakes and parchment. But the island has a way of keeping its final secret just out of reach. Rick Lagina, now in his 70s, often speaks of this pursuit in spiritual terms as a calling. And maybe that's the point. 6 names are carved on the memorial on the island. The curse says, 7 must die. No one wants a 7th name, but the hunt, the hope, the human need to uncover the truth, it continues. The Oak Island mystery endures not because it's an unsolvable puzzle, but because it's a mirror. It reflects our deepest desires, for hidden knowledge, for lost history, for proof that the world is more magical than we think. And as long as there is one more drill hole to be sunk, one more artifact to be pulled from the mud, we will be watching. The treasure is the hunt, and the hunt is far from over. What do you believe? Pirate gold, Templar relics, Shakespeare's lost plays, or the greatest prank in history? Let me know in the comments. I read them. And if you want more deep dives into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're just getting started. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the most valuable thing you can dig up is a question.